Hi, it's John Wren, and this is the Startup Show. And we're here each Friday at noon to talk about startup. So if you're not sure what you're going to do Monday morning, this is the perfect place to be. We're sponsored by the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. We're a Colorado nonprofit corporation, but we are trying to identify people across the country that would like to be an ambassador with their local chamber. Starting here in Colorado, if your local chamber would like to offer an alternative approach to startup, please have them call, or you give me a call, and let's you and I talk about how maybe you could be helpful to your local chamber, offering an alternative to the SBA venture capital approach to startup. Marbahidi is the first one I've known that would talk about the fact that businesses just don't start the way that we're told that they should start in graduate business school. And he has written what's been called the best book about startup by Inc. magazine, the publisher, when it first came out. And I think it's still the best book about startup. It's better now, but it's not. We sure are better, but we're not well yet. Overcoming this idea that startups are like, General Motors, but just a little bit smaller. They're an entirely different animal, and small businesses don't start the way that most people are taught that they should start, with careful market research, careful strategic planning. All those are great tools to have later on, but from zero to first sale is a different animal. And so that's what we talk about here each week. Today we're going to talk about something I know because I helped start it, and that's Save the Caucus. And people have been asking me, well, why are you so concerned about the caucus? Made me stop and think. I've researched that. And then I want to tell you what we've done and what we're going to do and how you might want to practice your startup skills using what we're putting together. I think you'll be very interested in it. Also, please forward this along to any of your friends who might be interested, especially if they're new to Colorado. We have a system that's very powerful once you know what the heck's going on, but it's a little bit hard to figure out. Used to be the League of Women Voters were very, very good at doing civic education and just helping people understand how the caucus works. Now, they were at the hearings last week trying to kill the caucus, this wonderful grassroots system that, you'd think that they'd be defending the caucus, but nope, they're trying to kill it. And it's been their neglect that's been part of the reason that the caucus hasn't done well. It used to be that they on a regular basis would get people together to explain how the system works, because it is the most powerful tool for the grassroots. Now, if you have large resources, political resources, you're very rich or very powerful because of membership you can activate or that type of thing, don't always like the caucus because it's sort of irritating to have to go and explain what you're thinking to all these people that are, showing up and they don't get it. And if we just had smarter people, this world would be much better. The political process is designed to work that way. I went down to the legislature and, you see it in motion. It just takes time. It's a messy process. And people, if you go to the grocery store and you get a little sliver of cheese and the cheese isn't good, you sure don't buy the whole thing. And what you get in the Colorado caucus is you go every 2 years and you get a little sliver of cheese. And I would say the caucuses today really do reflect what's going on down at the State House. And the better the caucus, the stronger the grassroots, the better it's going to go at the Colorado Capitol and in Washington, D.C., because our elected representatives are tied closely to the grassroots when the caucus is healthy. When it's not, it's chaotic, and that's kind of where we're at right now. That's why I think it's important that we not only save the caucus this time, but that let's do what we need to make it flourish. If the caucus will flourish in Colorado like it did at one time, this state is going to flourish. And I want to talk a little bit more about that today. The focus is a startup. We do this each Friday at noon, Mountain Daylight Time, and then in the afternoon at 4:30, there's an instructed Idea Cafe startup workshop. So if you'd like to start a startup workshop wherever you're at, if you're in Denver on a Friday afternoon, stop in at 4:30. Panera Bread's 16th and Grant, right on the 16th Street Mall. Market is right catty corner from the Market Street station. That just sits there empty. We need to try to help RTD think of a better use for that. I don't know what the plans are, but it just sits there empty now that they've opened up the Union Station. It's a very expensive piece of real estate. I can't imagine they didn't have something all lined up to go in there, when they made the switch, but they apparently haven't. But we've moved there from the Capitol. It's a little difficult to drive to, but the light rail works great. So what works best is if you park at one of the parking rides around town, don't come downtown and try to look for expensive parking. Parking rides are free for the most part all over the town now. And, if you're at the airport, come on down. If you've got a layover, the flight doesn't leave till 8 o'clock, come on down. It's the meeting's at 4:30, it's over at 6, followed by Socrates Cafe. And if you're not sure, you want to start something, but you're not sure what, sometimes Socrates Cafe can be more helpful to you than the Idea Cafe. At the Idea Cafe, we share startup experience. We use a brainstorming type technique to share specific concerns, and we share information that we know about resources that are helpful to a startup, that type of thing. We don't run it as a networking group. We say if we're successful, you'll be too busy to come back the next week. But it's a learning group where we talk about our Small Business Chamber of Commerce startup method for soulful startup. There's more to heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamed of in your philosophy. And we think that that's true of startups, that there is this inspiration that people have, the entrepreneurial itch, and they have to take action. And, what happens now is they a lot of times go into a small business administration office and they talk them out of doing anything. Do you know how many businesses fail? Blah, 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 blah. And it is true. A lot of businesses do fail. But if you just start, you fail fast, it's inexpensive, and you learn things you can never learn in the library or even going and talking to people in the same business. Sometimes, the best way to start a business, just start. Go get a customer. John Brackney shared that with us when he was one of our speakers. Each week we all share startup experience. Occasionally we invite somebody in with like John Brackney, and has had a lot of startup experience, and they share what they've done. And what John said was, what you need to start a business, you need a customer. And that is absolutely correct. The book we recommend now at Harvard Business Review Press, it's a book called Just Start. And president of Babson College, Charlie Kiefer, who is all through Peter Senge's book, The Learning Organization, wrote a terrific book. You haven't heard of it, unfortunately, but I think it is the most helpful book. Read it this weekend, get started on Monday. So today we're going to talk about how I did that with Save the Caucus. I did it twice. Back in 2002, we first started Save the Caucus to fight Amendment 29. And at that time, we'd had 3 election cycles with the presidential primary. This is not a new idea. The presidential primary has come up again. So now I registered as a registered agent for Save the Caucus. It had gone dormant, of course, since 2002. And in both cases, I get up in the morning, I try to do what I can to be fully awake. A cup of coffee usually starts it. Read. Prayer and meditation, I think, is very helpful. And then I kind of just see what comes to me. And both times, what came to me is, let's try to do something for the caucus. I had a soft spot in my heart for it back in 2002. And I had tried to find my own caucus for a couple of election cycles. And there was nothing in the newspaper. I couldn't connect on the phone with anybody. I mean, mostly my fault if I'd started a little earlier, but I'd wait till the day of the caucus, try to figure out where it was. So I saw Bob Ewigan. This is back in 2002. He was on the street right by the cathedral, Logan and Colfax. And, hey, Bob, I used to know you out in Arapahoe County. Oh, yeah. Hi, John. I said, this is the 3rd time I have tried to find my caucus downtown here. I cannot find my caucus. And he astonished me when he responded, yeah, we haven't decided what position we're going to take on that. There's traffic noise. He didn't understand what I was saying. He thought I was asking about Amendment 29. And I wasn't. I went home, got on the computer, found out about Amendment 29. And at that point, I believe it had already made the ballot. And what I did was, and I think I might have missed the caucus. That might have been my second time of missing the caucus. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, it had been more than once. I say that to Bob. And I think when I looked into Amendment 29, I found out that the Denver County Republican Convention was like that weekend. So I Xeroxed a very simple message on a sheet of paper that just said, if you'd like to help save the caucus and defeat Amendment 29, please call me. And I put my phone number on it, my name and phone number. And Joanne Gray happened to pick one up. Joanne Gray was the mother of a friend of mine who I went to school with, Alan Gray. And I also knew her because when I first became a precinct committee person, she was one precinct over and had been very helpful to me in showing me how she had organized her precinct with block workers. Precinct I inherited was very well organized. We already had block workers. And for a couple of election cycles, I was precinct committee person in Inglewood, and it was a great experience. And I saw the caucus at its very, very best. Now, what it's been, especially this last time on, what was it, March 1st, that is the caucus at its very, very pathetic worst. And if that's the only time you've gone to a caucus, I don't blame you for wanting to get rid of it. But believe me, there is a way that with good leadership, it is much, much more than what you've seen so far. Now, Save the Caucus back in 2002, we did just that. We were outspent 1,400 to 1. 1,400 to 1 we were outspent, but we won 60%, 40% because of Ruth Prendergast getting on the phone and calling people, and Sharon Klein and David Fogel and Phil Parrington and Daryl Eskin. And it was just a really team effort. But then after we had won, we slipped up. I had wanted to kind of keep going and maybe fill the gap that the League of Women Voters had left by stopping their civic education. But I couldn't get much enthusiasm for that. And we really felt like that the political parties would do a better job. But the problem is, political parties are not going to do the kind of civic education that some independent group is going to do. Because, once you've got all your ducks lined up, you don't want necessarily a lot of new ducks coming in. And so every 2 years, if you have a chance for a bloodless revolution in your neighborhood, and this happens on a regular basis. One of the precinct committee people is not doing a good job. Somebody will run against them and win, and then you have revolutions. And it's bloodless. Now, the problem is, and I think this started with Reagan, as far as I can see. Now, maybe it was, actually, that's not true. I'm sure it's been done more in the past, but a technique that really does harm the caucus in the short run is caucus packing. And, the idea of a representative government is not that we decide who's best for president and then shove them into office. So we only get our delegates there to the caucus and we don't discuss it. We just vote and get our people moved forward. That's not helpful. And, somebody goes to a caucus and that happens, they may never come back again. But the ones that understand the system, they start working towards that next caucus in 2 years that very night. You get together with a few people there. I didn't like the way that went. There was no discussion. I mean, maybe this guy or that woman, whoever is the best one, but maybe not. And we sure didn't have discussion. It was all preordained. Let's be back in 2 years and make a difference. Now, in our mobile society, people say, well, people move more often. And that's one reason the caucus is so important, because as you're moving around, it's a way to kind of have some glue helping hold the neighborhoods together. Good, strong neighborhoods have better caucuses, no doubt about that. But why not make every neighborhood a good, strong neighborhood? maybe it should be more than the hood, more than a neighborhood. Maybe it's more of a village. We need to move back to where people know each other's names. Wouldn't it be great if neighbors knew each other's names? Jesus said we should love our neighbor. Most of us, including me, I'm not good at even knowing the name of my neighbor. But every 2 years with the caucus in the neighborhood, we're forced to come together to learn each other's names. And this is like one of the last remnants where that happens. I think if the caucus goes away, you'll see a profound change in Denver. And it's happened before. I mean, it won't be a surprise to anybody that was here because we tried it for 3 election cycles, almost killed the caucus. And Rhett Bridges, I think, was doing the right thing to put Amendment 29 on the ballot because it made us make up our mind, do we want the caucus system or not? And what we found is that people wanted the caucus system. But what they want is a caucus system with good leadership. Now, the 2 state chairs, I think are going to have a very difficult time getting reelected, I would guess, unless they've, got all their ducks lined up. They managed to create so much chaos on caucus night that no opposition has come together. But my guess is that both parties will have somebody step forward as state chairs. County chairs need to be replaced on a regular basis. And precinct leaders, I think, if you've served for 2 or 3 election cycles, you've done your part. It's good to then pass the torch to someone. And some of the problem with the caucus right now is we have old, worn out people. I'm sorry, yeah, I'm kind of that way, but old, worn out people who are sick of the caucus, and instead of just passing the leadership on to someone else and helping it get started, they're just trying to kill the whole system. And that's too bad. Carolyn Metzler did that. She was Denver County Chair. We're fighting Amendment 29, and she's talking about how she thinks we should vote for Amendment 29, that the caucus system is no good, because she was worn out. She had done great service. She was tired of it, and Amendment 29 passed. She's, out of having to just step aside. And she was a wonderful lady in many, many ways, but I think she had that one character defect. I wish I just had one, and that it was as small as that one, because there are many, many more difficult problems I can create for other people with my short temper and so forth. Carolyn was a wonderful person, but I think she was mistaken about the caucus. It is quite a bit of work. But with computers, every election cycle, you're going to see it become more reasonable as far as the amount of paperwork and so forth. I absolutely think we should take advantage of technology. And one of the good things that came out of this fight at the legislature this time is that we are going to be seeing a committee get together, and they're going to be thinking about the caucus. And I think some good changes can come out of that is going to make it maybe less brain damage. That in a general sort of unorganized way is kind of why I thought the caucus was important. And, last spring, 1 year ago, I'm on my iPhone in the morning looking at Google News, which I had not ever looked at before on my iPhone. And I think, hey, this is neat. It's Denver, and there's this Denver news. And then there is the bill that's going to be in committee that very day that would kill the caucus. And I read it, and I thought, man, that's today. There's no way I can do anything about it. And I thought, well, I can't do anything here, that's for sure. So I got in the car. Actually, I got on the bus and went downtown and got there. And as I went down, I called a friend of mine who's a lobbyist, Corky Kyle. And I said, Corky, I don't have any group or anything like that, but just me personally, I'm going down to do what I can in this committee. I'd like to hire you between now and the end of the session. He gave me a bargain basement rate. And he and I together, and then some others came into it. Now, would have they come in if we hadn't been there? Who knows? Maybe the thing would have been defeated anyway. But for sure, I know that Corky and I worked real hard on it. On the internet, for me, mostly Corky talking to people. And sure enough, we were able to kill it in committee, which gave us some time. And I called, who I knew in both parties and tried to get something going so we could put together something reasonable. And nothing was ever done. So I thought, well, okay, maybe it's next summer. which is the summer coming up now. But then at the end of the session, here it comes again from the caucus killers, and anything that's been talked about the year before, and they wait until the end of the now. In one of the hearings there at the end, one of the representatives said that they had gotten people together. Well, I was left out, and everybody I know was left out of those. So I'm not exactly sure who they got together. I think it was sort of a power play, probably an illegal meeting if they were actually had. And that might have been an offshoot of this Building a Better Colorado. I think it created a lot of problems that we're going to be seen because they go around the state in this very deceptive way, making it look like they're getting sort of a cross section of opinion, and they're really not. Now, Building a Better Colorado, I wish they'd gone around the state talking about the caucus and how you can participate, because every 2 years we have the opportunity to build a better Colorado through our wonderful Colorado Caucus. And it's been saved once again. And now these legislative hearings over the summer, I'm sure those will be open public meetings. Watch for them. I'll be posting information on our website, cocaucus.org. I'm the registered agent for Save the Caucus now. We're going to be trying to form a steering committee and decide what's next for Save the Caucus. And in addition to that, I am going to do an education effort for a long time. Now, I've got the name Wren College reserved. I don't know if I'll use the name Wren College or not, but I might. And we want to do hyper-local education, starting with education about the Colorado Caucus. And we'll be totally neutral as far as candidates and issues are concerned. We'll just try to help people learn how the system works. And if we can get a Franklin Circle, it's what I like to think of, a peer advisory group that's focusing on those things. It's both Republicans and Democrats, and that little, 10, 12 person committee is welcoming newcomers. So a newcomer comes in, why have both parties take them information? Let's have a basket of information and let minor parties put their stuff in if they want. But I think it will, and once a month, why not all get together? I think last week I talked about my neighbor, Leonard Rowe, who was the spark plug for something he called alarm clock parties. It was really wonderful. Once a month, it's really the least brain damage you can have and still bring all your neighbors together. And the other thing we need to look at is in each neighborhood, is there a, Richard Florida quotes, can't ever think of the guy's name, the great good places, the third place where neighbors can gather. Over in England, I guess it's very common that the pub is sort of a neighborhood gathering spot. And every neighborhood, now maybe it has to be virtual these days. Maybe it has to be we're at McDonald's and we kind of create our own third place. That's sort of what Socrates Cafe does, and it's what the Idea Cafe does in the afternoon. Well, we're coming up to the end of our half hour together. What I'm going to be recruiting are people for these precinct leadership spots. And I'm going to start with a college student for each neighborhood. And then the college student and I will try to identify leaders for each precinct. And then we'll go to the next one. I'm going to help the first one get started here in my own neighborhood, the University neighborhood right by the University of Denver. I'll be looking for a University of Denver student to work with me. And then once I've got that going and we've turned it over to someone, then I'll start trying to help others do the same thing. We're going to try and do this very quickly so that perhaps by next fall, we'll be able to have a rally in Mile High Stadium. That's megalomania at work, folks. I realize that. But I've had that dream for a long, long time. And if we could have a network of people across the state to sell tickets and cooperate with their local chambers and local community newspapers, service clubs, and others, and we all came together to celebrate the Colorado Caucus, I think we can rekindle what it was once. And you're going to see a change in what happens down at the Capitol when that comes about. The caucus is the best place, it has been in the past, for new representatives. They get involved in the caucus. Sue O'Brien wrote a really wonderful column about that fact. And I think that was a big part of why we won so overwhelmingly. But, people start a political career by practicing politics in their own neighborhood, then their own area, and they get elected to the state legislature, that may be as far as they go, but they've learned the process, and then they know how to support their representative. And they may keep going. I think Colorado has had better local government in the past than the rest of the nation. I don't know how to prove that statistically. If somebody does, I'd be interested to see your numbers. Either way, maybe I'm wrong. But I have the feeling that the Colorado Caucus, given to us by honest John Shafroth, Governor Shafroth, in 1910, a special session of the legislature, and it has served us well since then, except for these couple of election cycles when we tested the presidential primary. We've tested it before, and we know for sure in Colorado the presidential primary kills the caucus because we've already done it once and it still hasn't fully recovered. And with bad leadership we had this year that didn't even try, you know, it's not only not recovered, it's just about to die. So we're going to put this education effort in place. If you'd like to be part of it, give me a call Monday or Tuesday, 303-861-1447. That's 303-861-1447. Well, Idea Cafe this afternoon at Panera Bread, 16th and Market. That's at 4:30. At 6 o'clock, same place, Socrates Cafe. Both are free and open to everybody. I encourage you to come for either or both. And then tomorrow, Saturday, every Saturday evening at 6:30 at the University of Denver, Anderson Academic Commons, there's another Socrates Cafe. And we're going to start meeting at 4 o'clock to have a meeting Saturday afternoon that might help shape the destiny of this education effort. If you'd be interested in that, give me a call. My name's John Wren. We're here every Friday at noon. You can pass the recording along to your friends, anybody that you know that might be interested in joining in this effort to do some civic education across the state to try to rekindle what once was such a great thing for Colorado. I think if we can rekindle it here, that we'll begin exporting it to other states, and we'd sure love to have your help doing that. If it gets on the ballot, these caucus killing measures, we're going to have to raise about $1 million. So please don't sign a petition that will kill the caucus or establish a presidential primary or in any other way make a change to the election. Just don't sign the petition, because if you do and it gets on the ballot, there's money in California that's been promised, apparently. That's my understanding. And it's going to be an expensive campaign, and they'll just shove it down our throat unless it's opposed, and about $1 million. So if you'd like to have that $1 million go for better uses, don't sign these petitions about elections this year. If you have any questions about any of this, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show one Friday here and share your startup experience, love to have you on. Give me a call Monday or Tuesday. John Wren, 303-861-1447. And remember, this life is very short. So let's go get started. Thanks for watching.